Hi, I'm Scott Freelander. I'm thrilled to be here today. I'm with Insight Public Sector. I lead our public sector business within Insight Enterprises. And today I'm joined by Anthony. Uh, Anthony Robbins comes to us from NVIDIA. And then Richard Holt is with Insight as well in one of our practice areas, as well as Jennifer Thomas. So why don't I turn it over to Richard to introduce himself, and then followed by Anthony, and then Jennifer, and then I'll bring it back.
Great, thanks, Scott. I'm excited to be part of NVIDIA's GTC 21. And my name is Rich Holt. I'm a solutions executive with Insight's Cloud and Data Center Transformation team. We focus on architecting, integrating, managing, and supporting the modernization of data centers, securing networks, protecting that data, and analyzing workloads for hybrid and multi-cloud adoption. Scott, as you know, for the past 18 months or so, I've had the pleasure of working with your team. My role with your team is to coordinate the proper resources and SMEs to develop and deliver data center solutions and services. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Thomas. I'm with Insight's Digital Innovation team. My role is to coordinate with Scott's team, similar to Rich's, from a DI perspective. The Digital Innovation Group focuses on really solving our clients' problems using innovation and technology to really get real world results. Anthony?
All right, thank you, Jennifer. And Rich and Scott, hey, I'm glad to be here with you guys on this panel. Between Inside Public Sector and the access to 3,000 engineers that you all have, and then the wonderful technology that we have here at NVIDIA, I think we have a chance to work together in support of the largest technology transformation the U.S. federal government has ever undertaken. And of course, that's inspired by the work happening in artificial intelligence. So we're looking forward to a good panel.
Well, thank you all. I'm thrilled to be here, as I said. So why don't we get started? You know, a lot of us have been in the public sector supporting our mission-oriented customers, be it federal or state and local. And we've seen the world change probably more in this 1 year's time than in many years up to this point. So the first question, let me start with you, Anthony, is describe what you're seeing as it relates to the public sector agencies changing in their mission, or staying with their mission, but focusing on landscape changes around digital transformation, macroeconomic conditions, and industry trends.
Yeah, so we're at the front end of the largest technology transformation in the history of the federal government, period. Simply stated, that's what's going on. We all will remember when the government came off of mainframes, right? And they started deploying client server architectures. And we remember a whole bunch of companies that are not around any longer. But that technology transformation off of mainframes and onto client server technology was a big wave, a technology wave. And these waves generally take somewhere around 10 years. The government went from that, and the next big wave that they took on, of course, was mobility, right? And that was a big challenge, and it was a big opportunity as another technology wave, and that wave also took about 10 years. The government then went from this mobility wave to the cloud wave, and in many respects, the government is still digesting kind of this cloud wave, and we see that, you know, as applied, for example, in the Department of Defense, and you know, of course, they recently awarded JEDI, and it's still problematic, and it's taken several years to get here. So the technology transformation wave that has to do with cloud is still underway, and yet here comes artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, by all economists and analysts and experts, it has been studied and has been represented as the largest technology transformation of our time, and bigger than all of the technology waves that came before it, right? So this is a gigantic technology transformation that federal government is taking on. And in some cases, they're ill-equipped to take it on, right? So if you look at the human capacity that has been tied to technology transformations in the past, you could say that the federal government is exposed from a human capacity perspective as it relates to the technology transformation of artificial intelligence. So we have a big wave, we have a deficit of human capacity, and we have an importance of public-private partnership. So there's a lot of pressure on companies like Insight, the Insight Public Sector team and Insight Corporation and NVIDIA to play a more profound role in assisting the biggest technology transformation that this customer has ever undertaken. And if that's not enough, we have to help them do it with speed, because this technology transformation, because of the business value to citizen services and is the business value to the federal government and as a nation, right? This technology transformation needs to happen faster than any of the others who have come before it. So it's really important role that we all have. And that's why we actually, work so hard to bringing GTC, the largest AI developer conference in the world, to this federal marketplace, because it's a way to train, educate, motivate, and inspire this transformation that's underway. Scott, over to you.
I'm thrilled you said that, in terms of we as an Insight super excited to be part of GTC. Don't say that 3 times fast. GTC 2021. So with this big change in the technology with artificial intelligence and high-powered computing in general, what are some of the challenges that are going to be taken on with these intelligent solutions to implement, to design, and then to make sure they cascade and build to the enterprise?
Who wants to take that? Rich, you want to take a shot at that one?
I thought it was directed towards you, Anthony, but from an Insight perspective, we are really building out an infrastructure and our team to really invest in looking at AI and how we can help with our customers moving forward and developing solutions for them. I think that's the key, is we're ramping up with those subject matter experts, and we're ramping up on the ability to provide an end-to-end solution for the customer, not just a piece of it, but from really putting together a solution that includes the hardware, software, and services to help our clients build out for the future. So
let me build on. It's complex. We get that. The National Security Commission of Artificial Intelligence, NSCAI, recently published a 700-page report on really what's it mean and how do you comply with it. So Anthony, why don't I start with you, and then maybe Jennifer or Richard wants to take that. What does that really mean, and what is it going to take in terms of executing on next steps with National Security Commission?
Yeah, so if you rewind this clock a little bit, you can kind of go back to when Bob Work was a Deputy Secretary of Defense. And even before the JAIC was the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, you had General Shanahan leading this, or he was a part of the Strategic Capabilities Office. They were working hard in the Pentagon to try to understand, okay, what is this thing around artificial intelligence, which, by the way, the Department of Defense has been working on since 1957, right? So it's not, this thing's not new, but the world's progress in artificial intelligence has been rapidly accelerating, and the Department of Defense knows that they've got to adopt artificial intelligence, for their platforms, to help protect our nation and make this country safe, and of course on the civilian agency side to improve citizen services. So several years ago, the Pentagon began looking at, what needs to happen for our country for artificial intelligence to play an important role in the Department of Defense and civilian agencies. And so I think it was in 2018, under the National Defense Authorization Act, they established the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence to study and report back to Congress and the President on the state of AI in the country and where the gaps and opportunities were. And I must say, and what's wrong with a couple of little props for this panel? Here's the report. And so for those of you that might be a little old-fashioned and got to put your hands on something to read, it's 756 pages. And it's an amazing document, frankly, right? That there was there was a lot, I mean, hundreds and thousands of interviews and contributors to this document. The National Security Commission on AI published this report or published documents on a quarterly basis over the past couple of years leading up to this final report. And in this report, you know, there's a couple of themes. Is we have to train the workforce, right? We have to have established public-private partnership. We have to do this work now, right? And the tools to do this work, in many cases, are different than the tools that we have in place today, right? So there's all kinds of representation in there about investment. There's call out for as much as $40 billion to be invested in research and development, which, you know, of course, an important aspect of the work that has to happen in artificial intelligence. It calls out likely use cases, and, you know, talks about training and the like. So if folks haven't had a chance to read the report, I highly recommend it. You will not read it in a night or a weekend, but there's really valuable information that if we look at it, it can serve to be a blueprint for us as ecosystem partners, you know, with inside public sector, you know, and as we think about the ecosystems, whether they're startup communities in Silicon Valley, Austin, and Boston, and elsewhere, or traditional defense contractors, or OEMs and the like, there's ideas here for how together we can serve the greatest technology transformation of our time.
So the technology is one piece. The plan is another, as you called out in the final report. So let's talk about, to make progress in artificial intelligence, it takes talent, data, infrastructure, and use cases. Do you one of you want to jump on first, the talent? I know Jennifer and Rich, you guys are always sourcing for solution architects and app developers and people that really know technology incredibly well. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think right now we're seeing a gap in the talent, right? So everyone is kind of pushing for this transformation, not just from a public sector standpoint, but also commercial. So those resources are in really high demand. So how do we really bring up that talent pool? How do we cross-train folks to be able to be competitive, right? And that's, I think, a massive challenge that we're all facing, not just from a public sector standpoint, but also from a commercial standpoint.
And then how about data? How about the data aspect of it? So much data, and how to properly manage against that.
Yeah, I mean, big data is not a new concept, right? We've been throwing around big data for years, and how do you process that and make connections that aren't necessarily unknown, right? And how do you build models that are really complex that can help, you know, reduce the gap or the need for an analyst to maybe kind of do hands-on analysis, right? And I think that that's a huge challenge. Another challenge around speaking to data is the privacy issue, right? So when it's that balance of our democracy against the need to be able to enable AI and other technologies to mine massive amounts of data to be able to be competitive against our adversaries and just competitive in the world itself. And I think that the report really talks about that balance and that need of making sure that our privacy and American citizens feel like AI isn't going to kind of infiltrate their world and reduce their privacy rights.
So that brings us, Rich.
It's already infiltrated their world.
It has. I don't, you know, and that's a good point, Anthony.
Yeah.
But to the degree, you know, I would challenge maybe perhaps while it's infiltrated the world, they may not necessarily realize it, right?
Yeah.
And I agree. And Scott, I think that's why you've seen Insight from both the cloud and data center and the DI teams. We are building out, you know, the right people, the right processes to be able to deliver those solutions, working together as a team, right? To be able to develop you know, these solutions for our clients, working with our OEM manufacturers to build a complete solution for them.
So speak to that in terms of the infrastructure required, because it's not just NVIDIA and it's not just Insight and Insight Public Sector and our practices. It requires a full-blown ecosystem or enterprise architecture with several partners.
Let's don't leave the data and the people thing so fast, because I do.
Exactly. That's important. You're right, Anthony. That is very important.
Yeah, and so a couple of things. If you rewind, and if we try to use history to teach us a few things, if you remember when cybersecurity was a big challenge for our federal government, and Tony Scott was then the CIO of the federal government, they created these cyber sprints, right? This way to try to add capability or capacity to the work that had to be done in and around cybersecurity. And then they created all these platforms to train inside of the government around cybersecurity. And then they stood up a whole bunch of organizations inside the government to help address this thing around challenge around cybersecurity. The same is happening at some level with respect to artificial intelligence, right? And so we need the federal government to accelerate the money that they invest to train their people. But they've also got wonderfully talented people already. And we need to make sure that we're pulling those people together as communities of interest, not too dissimilar to say what like the IRS is doing or the GSA is doing in standing up these kind of communities of interest around robotic process automation, as an example. So they're pulling people together to figure out how to develop community of interest around actually robotic process automation. It's kind of an easy way actually to get into artificial intelligence, or what the JAIC, the Joint Artificial Intelligence Center, is doing to try to bring together the DoD community on how AI might be used there. So you see work going on across the federal government to bring communities of interest, to bring their talent together to focus on this greatest of technology transformations. So you can see that going on. So where they have talent to bring together, they're bringing them together. Where they need to train, there's a lot of recommendations on what training programs might look like. And then the other piece of this is there are going to be many agencies that have to go out and acquire talent to bring talent to the challenge of artificial intelligence for that particular agency. And that's where I think they're going to have to come out to folks like, inside public sector. Like, I know you guys have access to 3,000 engineers, of course, across your corporation and on Jennifer and Rich's team. And so like this talent thing can't be one flavor, one size fits all. It has to be bringing talent to the problem so that we can make progress now. Whether that's internal, you have the talent, internal, you have to train the talent, or external, you have to acquire the talent. That work has to be done. And Rich, I think you had a comment.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned cybersecurity a few times, and we're developing solutions using AI and machine learning, and really to enable companies to reduce incident response times, looking at modeling for profiles of the applications on the security side, and then looking inside of the network trafficking patterns to recommend both functional grouping and workloads, and develop better security policies. So you see this in real world right now situations that AI and that machine learning are really helping out cybersecurity.
Yeah, there's no way the technical challenge of cybersecurity gets remotely solved without the application of artificial intelligence. Today, it's largely anomaly detection, or malware detection. When we stand up 5G and we go from hundreds of millions to billions and trillions of devices and creating this vast amount of data that's beyond almost probably anybody's comprehension, there's no way that we're going to solve to the future of cybersecurity without artificial intelligence playing a material role. So it's not enough to make that statement, right? Because even General Nakasone, right, who sits on top of U.S. Cyber Command, made these statements before he was actually confirmed, right? Which was years ago, right? And even the incoming Biden administration said that I can't even remember the number, it was $8 or $9 billion that they were going to put into cyber. And so there's a lot of money being put into cyber. There's not enough money and progress being made on the role of artificial intelligence in cybersecurity so that we can present or prepare ourselves for the challenge of tomorrow. But we need to do that work today.
So you guys kind of hit on my next question, but I want to talk a little bit about infrastructure, if you will.
We didn't even cover the data stuff.
I was going to say, we're moving past the data, and
we're going too fast.
Let's
slow down.
So are we
Jennifer
done?
And I have more comments on the data, Scott.
Yeah.
Are we done with the talent piece? We're
Yes.
always going to need talent. Now let's go into the data piece.
Yeah, but you guys can't sit there with 3,000 engineers in your organization and not figure out how to bring them to service to the biggest market in the world at the most important time of a technology transformation, right? That's kind of what I mean. It's like this technology transformation is not the sole responsibility of our customer.
No.
Right?
That's right.
We because they can't get there on their own. And even if they could get there on their own, they couldn't get there as fast as they need to. That's really important. And I harp on this so often. I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer here in a minute. But we have to figure out how to bring company capacity, the likes of what you guys have and your 3,000 engineers, in service to the needs of the market. And the needs of the market are different by agency.
Exactly.
Right? What the Coast Guard might need might be different than what the Navy might need.
That's right.
Might be different than some civilian agencies. Jennifer, I know you have something profound on.
No, Anthony, I think you're right on, right? Commercial needs to be that scalable function for the government in order to get there fast. And then I think data is an important aspect of this whole thing too, right? And there's plenty of data out there. In fact, most government agencies or our clients, I would say, probably don't understand their data and don't know how much data they actually really have and what they have, right? And then the concept of information is power, right? So I would tell you, getting over the challenges of agencies sharing data is going to be huge. And the government really needs to focus on that as well. Because in my experience, technology isn't necessarily something that hinders the information sharing process. It's actually the policies in place that actually are kind of one of the biggest and hugest impediments. And that's something that I think that we're going to have to focus on if we want to get there really fast, right? How do you break down those barriers? How do you share information in a way where privacy and laws and rules are still, in place? But how do you, speed up that process?
That's right. Yeah. Hey, listen, our customer is the most over-regulated, the recipient of more policies and law than any other market in the world. And so the beauty of our customer is they have more data than other than maybe the cloud service providers. As a market, they have more data than any other market in the world. And the beauty is that is the oil. That is what is needed to train these algorithms to bring artificial intelligence to be of service to the federal government. So they have this massive amount of data. They don't all have access to it. Sometimes data rights are owned by the systems integrators or those perhaps that built the platforms. Sometimes it's not even understood who owns the data. And then just because they have the data doesn't mean that data is usable, right? And so that's why I've been very impressed with the work that Dave Spurk has done as the chief data officer of the Department of Defense. He actually has created, the first data strategy for the department. And so in that document, in that strategy holds promise that as we go forward, that we can manage the data, like what data do we need? And then how are we going to go about labeling it? Who are the owners? How can we make it available to those that might use it to train these algorithms to do the operational AI work that needs to be done?
And Anthony, that's
There's
where you,
evidence of
get
process.
into really, and Anthony, that's where you get into really modernize. You need to modernize that data center, right? You need, in order to be able to take advantage of artificial intelligence and all the capabilities, you've got to make sure that your data center has been modernized and it's working efficiently in order to process that data and actually make it meaningful.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because if you were going to project, if you were going to say, okay, if I were going to think a couple of years ahead and say, okay, what does infrastructure at the edge look like, especially once we have 5G turned on? And what does infrastructure on-prem, right, our data center infrastructure look like? And what does infrastructure in the cloud look like? And what does that look like with respect to an artificial intelligence inspired enterprise? It looks like nothing like what we have today.
Yes.
Right. And so which is one of the challenges. How do we help our customer who's kind of, in this cloud technology wave? How do we help them go from this to this artificial intelligence transformation that's underway, modernize their infrastructure as required, use the data that they've collected or gathered today, right, to do really meaningful work quickly, right, quickly. So not only is this the biggest technology transformation they've ever undertaken, right, it's probably the most complex. And guys, Jennifer, to your earlier point, there's a whole bunch of things, relative to, the kind of use cases for AI and things around ethics, right, and the like that are really being studied, frankly, as they always are with every technology transformation. But there's a lot of work to do here.
Right.
So I talked about talent. We covered data. Richard, you kind of hit initially on data or on data center, on-prem, off-prem. We're talking cloud as well. Can I jump to infrastructure now? And then what I want to do is jump to use cases, really talk about cybersecurity use cases, waste, fraud, and abuse use cases, natural language processing. So anything more on infrastructure, like the importance of it and what it really means to NVIDIA and performing there.
Yeah, what I wanted to say about that is that I know I've mentioned really taking a look at the infrastructure, making sure it's modernized. But I know in the past we've been focusing on data centers. Truly, it's centers of data. And like Anthony had mentioned, right, you're not just in the data center, but you're at the edge. Every little piece that's bringing in data is really a center that needs to be all looked at and then modeled and then to be used so that you can better understand and get valuable meaning out of it.
Yeah. And your data centers today are challenged by the fact that Moore's law has run out of gas, right? And Moore's law, was this thing that we observed allowed us to get increasing performance every 2 years at the same price. But now, like, our data centers are full, right? And the technology infrastructure that's required to train these algorithms is immense. And so for the people that are going to do artificial intelligence well, they're going to have to contemplate infrastructure needed at the edge, infrastructure needed on-prem, and that's that which is needed in the cloud, right? And a lot of times what will determine that are the use cases that they're driving. And so, for example, at NVIDIA, we came out with, of course, we have GPUs in the cloud and we have GPUs at the edge, but, we also have over the last several years been building our own servers. And just to give some context to how rapidly things are changing, we built in less than a month, what is the 5th fastest supercomputer in the world, and it's basically on our campus. And we did that with our existing technology because we want to bring to our company, to our engineers, world-class infrastructure so that they could have the tools that they need for their trade, right? Software development capability around artificial intelligence solutions. And, and then if you compare that, right? If you compare that to the typical way that supercomputers are brought to the marketplace, I mean, the government may spend 3 years trying to bring that supercomputing capability to a national lab, for example. We did it in 4 weeks, right? So things are changing, right? And same thing with the cloud infrastructure. Cloud infrastructure is readily available, right? And then as our government, as our customers contemplate use cases that relate to the edge, that's a huge opportunity with a whole set of complexities and like the program area of joint all domain operations, right, is consumed with how to have infrastructure at the edge to do the work that the Department of Defense needs to do, for example.
Can we talk about some use cases like real life? I know we've been
As long as you have Jennifer's approval, I think you can.
Richard, you've done a couple really neat projects with NVIDIA and the team at NVIDIA. You want to comment on that and some of the use cases that you and others have been involved in?
Sure, I can do that without mentioning any names. Insight is working with some system integrators right now to architect and integrate an AI HPC solution. The design will use machine learning algorithms to process data generated at the edge, like you were talking about, Anthony. These hardware devices that are bringing in this data, and bringing it back and having this being able to make a real-time decision in a matter of milliseconds, right? These use cases we see from the edge side are surrounding image analytics, audio analytics, sensor and environmental analytics.
Yeah.
The solution is the main part of it really is the NVIDIA A100 GPUs that are crunching all that data. But you need that those high speed switches, like the Mellanox switches, which was a great purchase. High performance storage on the back end, and then general compute and software stacks are involved as well too. But what's great is NVIDIA has partnered with key OEMs to develop reference architecture, that streamlines the flow of data, accelerates training and inference with a high-speed data fabric. And I think, that's key to make sure that all these hardware pieces are all working together optimally. And NVIDIA has done a great job at picking the right partners to do that.
Yeah, and if you look at 2 use cases, I mean, absolutely giant use cases with respect to importance to the federal government. We call platform sustainment, or some circles it's predictive and preventative maintenance. And many DoD officials have said that's the largest and most important use case for which the government needs to solve to. Today, it might be data analytics, and tomorrow, of course, it's artificial intelligence. So platform sustainment is a big one, and then of course cybersecurity we talked about earlier, and then Scott, you mentioned waste, fraud, and abuse. I think it was in the 2017 reported year, there's $147 billion that was spent by the government in the area of waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think the number, if my memory serves me correct, was $27 billion alone in the IRS. So think about this, right? In the use case, waste, fraud, and abuse, $147 billion was spent in a particular year. And think about the amount of money that the government spends in cybersecurity and the importance of that to our government and to our nation, right? And then add in predictive and preventative maintenance. So let's just call those 3 use cases before we get into things like natural language processing. So you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of spend by the federal government that ultimately those use cases and workflows will be improved by artificial intelligence being applied to them. And so when there's that much money that's being spent, it is incumbent upon us to as an industrial base working in support of the federal government that we do better, faster. There's no reason to wait if we know that this technology will solve some of the hardest problems for our federal government. There's no reason for us to go slow. And that is the thing that drives me absolutely crazy, is we are not going fast enough as it relates to how we as companies can bring artificial intelligence capabilities to the business challenge of platform sustainment for the federal government, nor cybersecurity, nor the area of waste, fraud, and abuse. We're not moving fast enough. And in the end, these areas make our country less secure, or they just cost our taxpayers more money. And so either way, whatever our motivation or inspiration might be, it has to be, we have to move more effectively than we are moving right now.
Well, Anthony, that brings up a great initiative that we undertook, Insight Public Sector, working with NVIDIA on the Quantico Cyber Hub and Innovation Lab. Richard, you want to comment on what we're doing around that initiative in particular?
Sure. The Quantico Cyber Hub mission is really to be a vendor agnostic collaborative environment where people, processes, and capabilities are brought together to customize solution, to accelerate implementation of advanced cyber technologies through experimentation, innovation, research, and applications. IPS is partnering with Cyber Bytes Foundation. They're building an advanced technology demo lab and facility in Quantico Cyber Hub. IPS is providing PM, technical and business development resources, and we're partnering with vendors that are providing cooperative marketing funding and providing products that are going to be inside the Cyber Hub where we can do demonstrations and hopefully soon proof of concepts.
Yeah, but that's an example of what I was talking about, right? You guys have capability. How do you bring your capability to the marketplace? That's an example. That's one example. And there's many others that is, I do like hearing that. And listen, hey, in the case of full transparency, Jennifer has got wonderful talent and experience, but she's having some audio challenges at the moment that we're dealing with, which is why you're not hearing a little bit more from her. You will in the future, but maybe not right now.
I see she's on mute, and maybe okay.
So Scott, I know you mentioned case studies.
She just came off of mute for a second. There we go.
I don't know how long it's going to last, but we will try. There's no virtual event without a dog or some type of crazy event right now. But yeah, no, this Cyber Hub is, I think, going to be a great way for us to show all of our capabilities from across Insight, and also really help to show the art of the possible in a really quick way by doing and having the ability to have a lab where we can do proofs of concepts or POVs and really show our clients the speed in which the commercial market can go and solve these problems really fast, right? 12 to 14 weeks is almost unheard of with some of our customers on being able to provide a POC, and we can do that. And I think by leveraging that experience in those labs and the Cyber Hub, our clients are really going to see the benefits that the commercial world can bring to them from a scalability perspective, and then just a tools and talent.
Yeah, this is one that I am incredibly excited about, the trajectory of how it started and where we are. 7 months ago, a group of our client executives came to me and said this would be an incredible opportunity to deliver these type of solutions as proof of concept in a lab to showcase our customers. And we reached out to NVIDIA and a couple world-class companies like AWS and Microsoft and Google and VMware and Dell and HPE. And we weren't sure how many were going to say, yes, we're in with you. And in fact, every single one, plus about 5 or 6 others. So the opportunity to showcase portfolio solutions for the customers in this proof of concept, as Jennifer called out, is just going to be incredible.
It's a great example. It's a great example. And you guys are going to bring best-in-class partners and speed, to a really big challenge or opportunity, which is how which is how we need to organize ourselves. We need to help the government move faster with respect to this technology transformation than they have ever moved on any before it. And it's just that important. So I would just say good work.
Yeah, and Scott, I wanted to add, in conjunction with the Cyber Hub, that we did a major investment in our innovation lab, where we've built out an AI environment, right, for doing proofs of concept. So we have the talent to help any of our clients. We have a DGX server in-house that has 16 GPUs in it. We have another 4 other servers with NVIDIA GPUs as well. And we have storage and switching on the back end that we've actually helped some of the agencies doing cancer research in developing models and then making sure that they have the right infrastructure for what the research they're doing. So we're going to be tying that into that Cyber Hub as well.
Yeah. Now, and listen, the artificial intelligence, it's not new, it is big, and we need to help the government go faster, right? So when it's not new, the government's been working on artificial intelligence since 1957. In 2012, we technically came out of this kind of, if you will, frozen winter. That was 8 years ago. So it's not new. This thing is really big, and we have to help the government go faster. And you find that talked about in the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence in their report. I think we've demonstrated that in our conversation today. And I think it's important that we use GTC 21 as a platform to help motivate, educate, and inspire the work to be done. But all of this is not enough. To kind of Jennifer's point, Rich's point, we have to bring proof of concepts to show the government what they can do now and how they can go faster. And that'll be my focus for the next couple of years. Let's go faster.
Well, I'll tell you, we were so excited to be part of this, a part of GTC 2021, and working with you, Anthony, and your organization, not only this year, but for many years to come in this initiative. Why don't we close out by a couple comments from each of you as we wrap up? So, Richard, would you like to start?
Yeah, I just want to say that thank you for having us here at GTC 21. We are looking to partner with you on delivering solutions to our clients, and we're here to help.
That was sweet and simple. Jennifer?
Yeah, Rich kind of took my thing. So thank you for you guys' time today. Appreciate it. This is a fascinating subject. It's not going away, to Anthony's point. And we need to find ways in which we can be competitive in the world market as the world is kind of passing us by a little bit from an AI standpoint, right? So how do we leverage talent, commercial best practices, speed, and our understanding of AI to help our customers complete their mission and do it fast?
Yeah. And just as I said, listen, it's not new, so get on board. It's big, so invest. And we need to move faster, so let's help the government. Thank you for hosting the panel, Scott. I appreciate the chance to work with you guys.
This has been great. And to build on your comment, it is about bringing intelligent solutions to the market. It's needed like never before, as we have some bad actors out there from all over the world. And our mission-oriented customer in the federal government and state and local government is a major target. So we're here to help. We're here to support your mission with bringing that core expertise and capability to intelligent solutions and working together. Insight Public Sector, working with NVIDIA and many other core technology companies around the world. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.